A man opens a dusty trunk and lifts a faded battle flag, fabric stiff with age, insignia unclear. The room tightens. This is not a souvenir. It is a missing page that demands a name. Method first. Lay the textile on a neutral surface. Photograph both sides. Record dimensions, stitch pattern, color bands, and depot marks. Bag a thread sample for non-destructive analysis. Magnification shows field repairs and a corner cut and restitched, likely replacing a torn grommet. Along the hoist sit 5 faint ink stamps that resemble late War Depot codes. One ends with the number 7. Another reads like September. Fluorescence suggests a cotton blend from a specific supply chain. Trace the path. The trunk label lists a port and a date near the end of hostilities. Shipment records confirm a convoy, then a quartermaster depot. An estate sale moves the trunk in the 70s to an antique dealer. Years later, a private collector buys it. Now battlefield context. Cross-check unit rotations for the month on the stamp. Map engagements within 3 days of that week. Search after action reports for flags seized from command posts. One report describes a short fight that overran a signals detachment. A note mentions a banner cut down by a corporal. Coordinates point to a farmhouse crossroads. Go there. The field is new, but the hedgerow still rides the contour. A detector finds corroded fasteners near a shallow depression. A shard of ceramic hints at a broken insulator. Farm records survived. In a ledger, the owner wrote about soldiers, smoke, and a flag dragged through mud. The corporal must be real. Muster rolls list for corporals that week. One shows a field promotion 2 days later and a hospital entry for concussion. His service number matches a stencil along the flagpole sleeve when rake light catches it. Call the family. Caution first. We do not ask to tell a story. We ask for validation. They share a photograph of a young non-commissioned man beside a torn banner. The top seam matches the restitched corner. The mud streak aligns with our textile. Ethics set the next step. Provenance must be stronger than a hunch. We compile a dossier with images, lab notes, shipment data, and unit reports. An independent curator reviews the lot and writes an opinion. Plan the handover at the family home. No ceremony, only witnesses who matter. The curator explains the findings. I read the ledger line from the farmhouse. A grandson touches the frayed edge and pulls a breath. The flag does not erase grief. It restores a line that was cut. Afterward, we transcribe everything. Coordinates, names, methods, margins of error. The flag is not a trophy now. It is a primary source with a place, a time, and a man. What began without a name becomes a chapter with verified anchors. The work ends in a living room, with the past indexed to the right family. The record stands. We start with the cloth. Plain weave wool bunting, medium weight, with a selvage. Stitching is uniform by machine, 6 to 7 per centimeter, broken where field repairs yank the line. Under raking light, a shadow emerges where a tag once sat. Adhesive residue, right angle, 2 nail bites. We check the header. Cotton tape reinforcement, 2 brass grommets, 1 deformed. Inside the tape sits a smudge of blue ink. Ultraviolet brings it back. 2 lines, a maker code, then a depot stamp with a year. The font matches period dies. A good sign, not proof. Next, we hunt for unit marks. Flags often carry nothing, but field units improvise. Along the hoist, beneath a repair, there is charcoal scoring. Not letters, numbers. We dust with rubber crumbs and lift an imprint. 3 kp, 2 BTL, then a truncated field post number. That sequence suggests a 3rd company of a 2nd battalion. Field post tables can anchor that to a regiment and a place. We open wartime lists. Field post numbers are the spine of the army. The digits align with an infantry regiment that fought a river crossing in autumn. Logs from both sides mention a captured color on the east bank during a night withdrawal. Our flag shows the same blackened edge expected from flare ash. Pattern and moment begin to converge. Now the chain of custody. Inside the grommet sits a sliver of waxed cord. American quartermaster tags used it. We photograph the fibers and match the twist to surviving tags in a local museum. Shipping manifests list a bundle of enemy flags crated in late winter from an advanced depot to a stateside port. One manifest carries a crate number that also appears, faintly, in graphite on our header. Not elegant, but a link. False trails appear. A post-war collector pinned a name in ballpoint on the reverse. We test the ink, modern dye base, not wartime. Discard. Another stamp reads souvenir. The typeface reveals a cheap set sold in the 50s. Discard. What survives is older, messier, more convincing. We return to the charcoal numerals. The regiment's 3rd Company lost its guide during that river action. The after-action report lists 2 runners missing. One runner's pocket log mentions tying a flag to a fence post to mark a rally point. Both men vanished in the same hour. If the flag fell there, it tracks with the capture note and the shipping timeline. This is not an emblem now. It is metadata made of cloth. Every stitch points backward, toward a man who carried it through water and smoke. We have enough to name the unit, place the night, and close the circle from hands that raised it to the family that waits for it to come home. The flag begins as fabric pressed to dirt. Shell bursts fade, and the position falls. A private from an exhausted rifle squad lifts the cloth, not as a souvenir, but as proof that the line is moving. He folds it fast, pushes it into his field bag, and follows the shout to keep advancing. Hours later, he is numb with cold and smoke. The flag is damp, heavy with mud, already carrying a record of impact that no camera caught. In a barn seized for triage, the bag is emptied for a quick check. Rations, spare socks, a crumpled postcard, and the flag. A medic glances over, nods the private through. The fabric rides with him in a truck that jumps ruts and ditches until the engine knocks. When the unit rotates to the rear, kit is cleaned. Mud sloughs off the flag in a galvanized pail. Beneath the grime appear flaked paint on a staff sleeve, stenciled numerals, and stitching that matches a depot pattern. The private does not know that yet. He only knows he kept something that proves he was there. A quartermaster sergeant stamps a form and waves a line forward. Men drag footlockers across planks to a tent where sensors cut open parcels. The flag lies flat on a table under a single bulb while an officer weighs policy against morale. No propaganda value, no sensitive code, no maps. The officer signs the corner of a sheet, and the fabric moves again, wrapped in brown paper and tied with cord that bites into calloused fingers. At a rail yard, the crate rattles among crates, canteens, boots, and typewriters. Oil and smoke and winter air blow through the slats. The manifest lists parts and clothing and personal effects. Somewhere inside the stack is a package with a surname and an army post office number. The train pulls into a port where cranes lift freight by the throat and drop it into a hold. A troopship groans. Men disappear below decks with duffel bags like seed sacks. The flag drifts on a slower channel, logged, stacked, and sealed. Storms shove the hull 3 days in a row. Salt percolates through seams. Water stains the paper, but not the fabric. On the other side of the ocean, forklifts squeal. Customs inspects, stamps, releases. The package rides a truck convoys inland, then a mail route that runs past silos and water towers. It reaches a clapboard post office with a brass window and a clerk who knows every family in town. He slides the bundle into a canvas bag destined for a porch with peeling paint and a tin star hammered over the stoop. Home front life absorbs the package without ceremony. A father opens it on a kitchen table scarred by pans and homework. No words are read aloud. The paper is folded, the flag refolded, and placed in a cedar chest with winter blankets. Years pass. The private does not come back. The chest moves when the house sells, then again when the family downsizes. The fabric is carried up a narrow staircase into a dry attic under a triangle of heat and dust. Up there, the seasons drum on the roof. Rods of light pierce gaps in shingles and sweep across trunks and boxes. Mice chew labels off mason jars, then vanish. A child becomes an adult and hauls the chest down 2 steps, then gives up and pushes it back. A realtor clicks photos, wide angle, bright, never looking inside. The flag waits. Faint grease from fingers once stained with cordite has fixed the folds. The stenciled numerals fade but survive. A storage tag curls, still hanging by a thread. Decades compress into a heartbeat when a careful hand finally lifts the lid. The cedar breath escapes. The fabric slides into air for the first time in a lifetime. Stains, stitching, a unit mark, a depot seam. A camera focuses. A notebook opens. The journey that began in shock and momentum ends in quiet clarity. What felt like a relic of victory becomes a record of movement, a ledger line through systems and chances, from a trench to a table to a chest to an attic. Now the path can be reversed. Now the work of return can begin. I start with what can be proven on paper. The flag is silent, the documents are not. A faded field tag in the hem yields a capture date, a grid reference, and a penciled surname that does not match the unit stamp. War diaries are blunt instruments. In the battalion diary, I find an entry at 16:20 hours. Enemy position overrun, 1 company standard seized. The grid square matches the tag. A second line notes the standard was forwarded to the rear underguard. Captured material moved through collection points to a processing depot. Each handoff created paper. I scan index cards, requisition forms, and carbon copies. A serial number repeats across 3 forms. It links the flag to a wooden crate, and that crate to a truck manifest. The manifest is routine and therefore gold. Departure 0430. Route via milepost 41. Load. Mixed captured items. At the bottom is a signature repeated in a depot photograph. Depot records are precise. Items were weighed, measured, and assigned to a shipment class. Flags were logged as political items and locked in a steel cabinet. A clerk typed the cloth had soot in the weave and a tear along the hoist. The cloth shows both. Paper and object begin to converge. From the depot, the chain splits. Intelligence evaluation or trophy distribution. Intelligence means an analysis report and a retention order. Trophy means a plane or a ship and a customs declaration. I find the customs form first. The crate number appears again, matched to a pallet loaded at an airfield 3 days later. Destination, a rear area postal zone. The receiving officer has the same surname as the penciled note on the tag. Now the diary of the rear area unit picks up the thread. The surname appears in a roster, then in a casualty line. Wounded by mortar fragments while escorting convoy. Transferred to field hospital and evacuated. His effects were sealed and shipped. I follow his effects because effects were audited with care. Inside the list is an entry that should not be there. 1 cloth standard of enemy origin. The trail tightens. The effects bag reached a stateside base. The bag was opened for inventory. 2 items were removed for evidence. The cloth standard remained and was released to next of kin with the rest of the belongings. The signature on the release form matches a family name on a headstone in a small cemetery. I verify each step against shipping logs and unit returns. 1 source is noise. 3 sources make a line, and I move. The last document is a letter from a quartermaster office to a local postmaster, confirming delivery of a war effects parcel requiring signature. That hand appears again in a ledger that notes a visit by a woman collecting a parcel after a telegram. The parcel number matches. There is no room for legend. The path of the flag is not romance. It is ink numbers, names that endured fire and time. The paper is a map that ends at the doorbell and someone who waited. The table is bare except for the flag, a caliper, a loop, and a cold beam of light. Canvas breathes out faint dust. The stitching is uneven. The red has rusted toward brown, and the pole sleeve is torn at the seam. I start with the largest clues and move inward. Size, fabric, thread count. The cloth is wartime cotton, coarse but strong. The weave confirms a production run from the mid-years of the conflict. That narrows factories in months. I turn to the pole sleeve. There is a block of ink, faint but present. Under the loop, the characters resolve. Not a name, not a slogan. A short code of letters and numbers, followed by a small circle stamp with a device that looks like a wheel. Ink has bled into the fibers, which means a porous pad and an unsealed stamp head. That is consistent with hurried field issuance rather than parade stock. I do not trust any single clue. I log the code in the worksheet and move on. The corner seam holds a second clue. There is a pencil scrawl trapped beneath the stitch line, just visible where the seam split. Pencil graphite does not lie if it has not been cleaned. I photograph it at a shallow angle, then mirror the image to make sense of the strokes. The scrawl is a 3-digit number, then a slash, then 2 letters. It matches the pattern on surviving quartermaster sheets from the same army, where depot and sub-depot identifiers follow shipment batches. Serial marks do not only tell origin, they describe a path. The circular stamp appears again near the edge, but this time with 2 partial numerals. I overlay both impressions in software and align the arcs of the circle. The numerals lock. 8 and 2. Now the code reads complete. I cross-reference it against a ledger of captured material compiled by an intelligence unit that photographed trophies as they were boxed for shipment. The ledger does not show every object, but the pattern of numbers is consistent with a June intake from a railway hub that changed hands in a 2-day battle. The paper trail is thin, so I test the cloth itself. Stitch length varies every 10 centimeters, which means a line worker changed machines mid-roll. That yields a factory candidate with 2 functioning lines in the period. I find a procurement form with the same wheel device stamped in the approval field. The wheel is not a wheel. It is a stylized gear used by one regional supplier. The supplier stamped completed orders, but also issued replacement pennants at the front. That explains the porous ink. I return to the pole sleeve tear. The tear is not accidental. Fibers are pulled one way only. Someone yanked the flag off the pole in a hurry. A broken wood sliver trapped in the seam carries varnish. Varnish composition points to a local workshop near the same railway hub. A photograph from the intake ledger shows a bundle of flags on a table, one with a torn sleeve and a varnished sliver still inside. The torn edge matches the angle of ours. The numbers, the stamps, the gear device, the varnish, the stitch cadence. Each thread confirms the others. The path sharpens. Factory to depot. Depot to garrison. Garrison to rail yard. Rail yard to capture point. Capture point to crate. Crate to ship. Ship to port. Port to attic. The flag on the table is no longer a mute relic. It is a document that speaks in codes and fibers. The story now has coordinates, dates, and a chain of custody strong enough to bear a name. We thought the flag would speak for itself. It did not. Its fabric was sun-bleached and stiff. The inked unit marks half-eaten by time. Our first match came from a hastily typed list in a regimental log. Same battalion, same sector, same week. We celebrated too soon. A closer look at the handwriting style on the hem showed a different quartermaster than the one serving that unit. The thread count was right, the story was wrong. We drove to a farm where a veteran once lived, following a rumor that he brought home a trophy from a blown rail yard. The barn was empty, the family long gone. In the dust, we found crates of rusted hinges and a postcard with a city name that had been renamed twice since the war. The lead felt warm for an hour. Then it went cold. Archival photos gave us a promising angle. A color shot showed a banner with the same diagonal stain. We zoomed in until the pixels broke apart. The stain turned out to be a shadow from a radio mast. We grew suspicious of easy overlaps. The shipping manifest from a port depot listed a package of captured insignia sent to a stateside museum. We called, wrote, waited. The manifest number was a transposition error. The crate had contained mess kits, not flags. A clerk apologized. We crossed another line from the board. A collector swore he had seen a twin to our flag at a flea market outside a garrison town. We found the seller. He unfolded a banner that looked close under weak light. In daylight, the weave and dye were modern. He shrugged and blamed memory. One witness insisted a sergeant stitched initials into the corner after a crossroads fight. The initials matched a casualty from the same day. It felt like progress. Under a microscope, the thread glowed synthetic. Post-war repair. The wound in the cloth had been mended by someone who wanted the flag to survive, not by the man who died carrying it. Hope turned into data, then into a note in the margin. At a small archive, an index card pointed us to a sealed envelope marked personal effects. The envelope held only a list of items destroyed due to contamination. Among them a flag, no dimensions given. Destruction is also a form of record. We returned to the field where the unit had broken contact. The map placed a supply truck here, a medic post there. The landscape had shifted under roads and drainage ditches, but the wind still came down the same valley. We laid the flag on the ground and traced its frayed edge to the contours of a drainage lip. The fit was nearly perfect. Nearly. False leads hurt, but they narrow the path. Each wrong badge, each misread stamp, each witness memory that bends with the years cuts away what the story is not. The noise recedes. The flag remains, not as a trophy, not as a talisman, but as an object that resists guesswork. The dead end is a wall until it becomes a signpost. We pack the flag, mark the map, and choose the next turn with quieter hands. The work continues. The truth is owed. The flag lies on the table under flat light. Cotton, faded dye, moth cuts along the hem. On the canvas bag, we found a pencil note with a date and a town. The artifact is silent, but it points in many directions. Before we move it, we ask the first question: who has the right to decide where it goes? A veteran brought it home as a trophy, recorded in a private diary, and wrapped away. His family kept it as an heirloom. The unit that fought under it lost men whose names live on in a registry. A museum can preserve it under climate control and give it context. The state that raised the unit may claim it as cultural property. No choice is clean. Every answer rewrites the past for someone. We map responsibility like a chain of custody. We test the story against documents. The shipping manifest lists an item described as captured flag. A photograph from the same week shows an identical tier pattern. Field orders confirm the unit number stenciled on the sleeve. With each link verified, ownership looks less like possession and more like stewardship. The artifact carries obligations. We contact the veteran family first. They did not take it to sell. They kept it because it was proof that a brutal mission had an end. They listen as we explain the unit match and the list of the fallen. Their home goes quiet. The family asks the necessary question: if this flag belonged to men who died, why is it in our living room? We reach the unit archives. Names, last letters, burial locations. The curator asks about conservation plans and public access. A historian cautions against removing all wartime trophies from the private sphere. Objects survive because people care for them. The task is to place them where they tell the most truth. We step back and test our motives. We are not judges. We are messengers. Our goal is to prevent the object from becoming a mute relic. It must be read. It must name the people connected to it. It must teach why the battle was fought and what it cost. The decision forms in stages. The family agrees to transfer the flag as a long-term loan to the unit museum, with a clause that the exhibit will identify the veteran who safeguarded it and the soldiers who served under it. The museum commits to publish the research, digitize the files, and notify the next of kin we have traced. On the day of the handover, we document everything. Condition images, accession forms, a clear note of provenance that includes uncertainty where uncertainty remains. The curator lifts the flag using gloves and a support board. There is no ceremony. There is procedure, and there is respect. Who owns memory? No single person does. Memory is a task that we perform together. The flag does not belong to a house or a vault. It belongs to the story that connects both. Today, that story becomes public, and the object finally does what it was made to do. It gathers people under one field of color and asks them to remember. Hold fast. Dust hangs over the work table. The flag lies flat, a rectangle of worn fabric, edges frayed by time and rain. Under raking light, the inked signatures wake up, strokes thick and thin, some steady, some broken by cold hands in a trench. There is no romance in this room, only procedure. I log the dimensions, the weave, the thread count. I map stains and tears like wounds on a human map. In the lower hem, I find a faint stamp, half crushed by a fold. I photograph it and pull the image onto the grid. Shrine seal, prefecture confirmed. The first axis is place. A column of names curves along the sun's circle. Many are common. One stands out. A family name paired with a rare given name used in one district only. I compare kanji forms with a handwriting atlas. The crossbar tilt, the pressure on the final stroke, the way a radical opens at the top. This is not an autograph wall. It is a roster. I tag the potential owner and mark every witness name that clusters around it. On paper, the next step seems simple. Link names to a field post number. In reality, field posts moved like smoke. I open wartime postal logs and trace the number inked near the hoist. It migrates from a training depot to an infantry regiment, then to a reinforced battalion sent to garrison an island that fell in late 1944. The manifest lists leave a thin trail. Replacement drafts, emergency transfers, missing bundles. I plot dates against the flag's material history. Sand abrasion matches a shoreline campaign. Salt marks line up with a monsoon month. A tear along the fly edge is aligned like a cut from shrapnel. Under magnification, fibers are fused and darkened. That is heat, not rot. I check action reports for indirect fire on the Unit's defensive line. One entry notes an enemy mortar strike that burned personal effects in a forward cave. The time window narrows. The probable owner became a casualty within 7 days of that event. The breakthrough waits in a place that looks too ordinary to matter. It is a school alumni newsletter from 1939, the last issue before call UPS emptied classrooms. A photo page lists graduates by class and village. There is the rare given name again, paired with the same family name, and a teacher's note about a scholarship student who excelled at calligraphy. I pulled a signature from the flag and compare letter order and brush rhythm with a certificate scan from the school archive. The proportions match within margins that suggest the same hand. It is not proof yet. It is a direction. I pivot to casualty rolls. The regiment's losses in that sector are recorded in batches. Among them is the same man, reported killed in action in November 1944, body not recovered, effects burned. A cross-match with municipal records confirms parents in the same district as the shrine seal. I find a younger sister listed in a 1947 food ration ledger, later married and relocated inland. The ledger gives a new family name. I follow it through residence registries until a living address appears. Before contact, I challenge the chain again. I bring in a forensic document examiner to blind test the handwriting. Independent agreement comes back with high likelihood of authorship. I compare fiber samples from the flag with a known period flag from the same supplier catalog. The warp and weft align. A veteran's recorded account mentions taking a flag from a cave fire on that island after the bombardment I already traced. His unit intersected with the same ridge where the regiment held. The trophy route closes. The case file is now a structure that can carry weight. Place, unit, event, name, hand, family. The fallen is no longer an entry on a roll. He is a student who wrote carefully, a son who carried blessings inked by neighbors, a soldier caught in a fire that left almost nothing. The flag remains. It is enough to go home. I stare at the cursor and read the family name again. The service number matches, the dates align, and the unit stamp on the flag is clear. Research ends where people begin. In my folder sit photographs of the artifact, a torn shipping tag, and a diary note about recovered personal effects. I write the email in plain language. I explain who I am, how the flag surfaced in a house clearance, and why the markings point to their relative. I attach a scan of the unit stamp and a cropped image of stitched initials that match the laundry mark in induction papers. I state there is no request and no pressure, only an offer to share evidence and listen. I remove every extra word and send it. There is silence for hours. When the reply arrives, it is brief and wary. Is this cruel? Is this real? I answer with dates and references and suggest a call at their convenience. The next afternoon, the line connects. He says he is the nephew. He asks how a battlefield flag ever left the field. I do not guess. I describe paths seen in other cases, from hurried collection points to confused quartermaster rooms. He asks what proves it belonged to his uncle. I cite the stitched initials, the matching laundry mark, and a supply form that lists his platoon and date. He is quiet for several seconds. When he returns, the voice is steady but lower. His mother kept a box of wartime letters. She has never opened it. He does not promise access. He agrees to receive a dossier and a chain of custody plan. He asks what I want. I say the goal is to correct the record and return an object that belongs with the family. A second call follows the next day. Two relatives join. They ask about authenticity protocols, handover logistics, and how to avoid attention. I outline a simple plan. We meet at a neutral site. A notary witnesses the handover. The flag is inspected with gloves, photographed, and wrapped in acid-free paper. No media. There is a pause. Then the nephew says his mother is ready to see the flag. She wants to hold it once before any decision is made. I confirm a time and ask if they want a conservator present. We agree on a quiet room at the library. I close the folder and feel the shift from documents to people. Research becomes contact, and contact becomes responsibility. I pack the courier box, check the forms, and write a final confirmation. Somewhere a family prepares to open a door that has been closed for 80 years. Soon they will hold proof, and history will breathe. The train pulls out before dawn. The flag rides in a flat archival box on my lap, wrapped in acid-free tissue, banded with cotton tape. I check the paperwork again. Chain of custody forms. Export clearance. A letter from the museum that verified the unit markings. Everything is in order, but my hands stay tight on the box. Outside the window, fields smear into gray. Inside, the carriage hums. Each vibration reminds me that the cloth inside has moved across continents once before, under very different conditions. At the airport, I choose the slow lane. Manual inspection only. I open the box and lift the tissue just enough for the officer to see the faded stitches. He nods and waves me through. I do not let the box out of sight. No overhead bins. No checked luggage. When the plane lifts, the pressure change thumps in my ears. I keep breathing, counting seconds until the seat belt sign goes dark. During the flight, I review the route to the village. A local contact has sent coordinates, a modest house on the edge of a ridge. The family asked for no filming inside. We agreed to record B-roll outside and capture audio after. The story is not about me. It is about a name that was missing from a flag and a family that carried an empty space for decades. We land in a hard rain. I sign the last receipt at customs and step into a narrow rental car. The box goes across the back seat, strapped like a passenger. The wipers fight the downpour. The road climbs into low mountains where the clouds sit on the shoulders of the trees. I pass a monument at a crossroads, a list of names in stone, water running down the letters. I pull over for a moment. The dates match the unit in my file. I keep moving. By late afternoon, the rain breaks. The village appears in segments: a schoolyard, a shuttered shop, a square with a war memorial that has a free space at the bottom. The house is 3 turns past the church. A gate opens before I reach it. 2 generations wait under the eaves. No one speaks at first. We shake hands. I hold the box with both arms and follow them inside. The table is cleared. A cloth is laid down. I set the box in the center and undo the tape. The tissue rustles. The flag unfolds in careful halves and then in quarters. The room is very still. The unit markings are there. The repaired tier across the corner is there. The family matriarch touches the table, not the flag, and inhales through her nose. The sun points toward a framed photograph on the wall. The same unit patch. The same year. I read the summary of our research. Field recovery. Catalog tag. Misfiled crate. Rediscovery during a storage audit. Cross-check with letters and shipping manifests. Request for return approved. They listen without interruption. When I finish, the matriarch nods once. She reaches for the corners. We lift together and lay the flag over a prepared frame. The fabric settles, and the room exhales. Outside, the sky opens to a thin band of light. We walk to the square in silence, carrying the framed flag between us. Villagers join without being asked. The memorial stands waiting. The free space at the bottom is not free anymore. We slide the frame into place. A name is spoken, once, clearly. There is no applause. There is only air and the sound of shoes on wet stone. The history in my hands is no longer mine. It is home. The hall is small, municipal, all hard edges and cold light. The flag rests in a neutral case on a table covered with plain canvas. No display boards. No fanfare. 2 chairs face each other with a narrow aisle between them. The air smells like floor polish and damp coats. Outside, rain needles the windows. Inside, time feels tight, like a strap drawn across a chest. The researcher stands first, shoulders set, voice steady. He explains the chain of custody, the battlefield pickup, the shipping tag from a depot, the attic where it slept for decades. He lays out the verification steps, the unit stencil matched to a roster, the faded ink corroborated by a quartermaster manifest, the photo of a flagpole stripped during withdrawal. He speaks in short sentences. Facts only. Across from him, the family listens. A mother with careful hands. A brother who never met the fallen man, he carries the look of him anyway. A daughter with a folder of clippings and a single school portrait printed too dark. They nod in fragments, absorbing each piece like a slow drip of cold water. The case clicks open. The cloth is heavier than expected. It has that stored smell: dust, old oil, cedar from a box meant for winter coats. The fabric shows stress points along the hem. There are repairs, field crude but competent. A corner bears the blunt shadow where a finial once pressed. Thread patterns match the template gathered from records. The researcher does not raise the flag. He does not stage it. He keeps it waist high, both hands supporting, edges folded inward, insignia visible enough to confirm identity, but not enough to turn the table into a pedestal. He names the place where it was taken. He names the names that were there. He says the date. He stops. The mother steps forward. She touches only the canvas cover. Her breath hitches, then steadies. The brother reaches for the manifest photocopy first, not the artifact, as if to brace himself with paper. The daughter watches the stitching. Her eyes track the repair thread. It tells a quieter story than any ceremony could. Silence spreads. No background music. Only rain at the windows and the scrape of a chair leg as a custodian passes in the corridor. The researcher asks if they are ready. They nod. He places the flag in the mother's hands, then withdraws, palms open, showing there is nothing left to keep. A minute passes. The family adjusts their grip until it is balanced among the three of them. Shoulders angle inward. The weight distributes. The room settles. The daughter breaks the stillness. She says they will house it in the Veterans Hall first, then bring it home on the anniversary of the last letter. She says they will invite the unit association. She says the name again, clear. The researcher adds one final, note the path of the flag ends here. He signs the release form and leaves it on the table. The case remains open. The family does not close it. They cross the aisle together. The rain slows. A thin beam of late light finds the cloth and holds. The house is quiet after the handover. The flag lies on the kitchen table like a report. It is heavier than expected, harsh wool that holds the shape of decades. A handwritten inventory number sits near the seam, faint but still legible. Nobody rushes to frame it. Nobody rushes to pray. The room works the way rooms do after long news. Chairs scrape. A kettle breathes. Someone opens a window, then shuts it. The daughter spreads the fabric with careful hands. She does not hunt for glory. She is trying to read it as evidence. There are sun-bleached angles where it once hung in the open, stains near a corner that are not dramatic enough to be the story and are therefore more convincing. A cousin takes out a notebook. He lists what they can prove and what they cannot. He writes the unit markings, the field postcode, the date from the shipping manifest that surfaced in the archive. He says the only thing he can. They call the local historian because he knows how to talk about hard facts around the soft edges of grief. He arrives with a scanner and a cloth mask. He says the wool should rest flat for a week. He explains the resin in old threads. He does not promise closure. He promises documentation. That promise feels like oxygen. The family makes copies of letters that the soldier once sent home. The handwriting is steady until it is not. They stack the pages beside the flag without touching the two together. The gap between paper and cloth stands for the gap between intention and outcome. A neighbor comes by with a tray and an unasked question. What now? The father answers with tasks. Photograph every mark. Verify the stamp. Contact the regiment association. He assigns call times and a shared folder. People move. Action clears the fog better than condolences. It rains in the afternoon. The roof ticks. The flag drinks the room and the room changes. The daughter feels a shift that is not relief and not pain. It is alignment. The family did not gain a relic. They gained a fixed point on the map of what happened and when. With that point, other facts will stop drifting. By evening, the flag is folded again, not as a symbol, but as evidence under care. Tomorrow, the historian will log the scans, and the family will send the first email to a son who never met his grandfather. The message is simple. We found enough to stand on. From here, we will proceed with both hands open and our eyes on the record. We go on. We go on.